Welcome everybody, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel, please help support it by clicking the subscribe button, and as an added bonus, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music. All right, today we're going to take a look at former frontman of Yes, Jon Anderson's latest solo album called 1,000 Hands. This release here came out Friday, July 31st of 2020. But originally it got a very limited release back in March of 2019, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Jon Anderson started his musical career 52 years ago, and in 1968, along with Chris Squire, he founded the progressive rock band Yes. And he was a member of that band from 1968 to 1980, and then again from 1983 until 2008, so nearly a 30-year span there. During that time, he sang on the band's two biggest hits, 1971's Roundabout and 1983's Owner of a Lonely Heart. Both of these are very different styles with very different lineups of the band. You know, Yes started as a technically proficient band that morphed into progressive rock, then into new wave, and back to the progressive rock thing. And during all of this, Jon Anderson has been, moving with it very fluidly and sort of been the one constant throughout its sound. But during all this, too, he's maintained a very successful solo career, releasing his first solo album in 1976. Since that time, he's released a subsequent 14 more solo albums throughout his career. He's also collaborated with varied artists such as keyboardist Vangelis and violinist Jean-Luc Ponty. He's also appeared on albums by King Crimson, Tangerine Dream, Mike Oldfield, Iron Butterfly. In 2009, he became an American citizen, which I found interesting. His last solo album came out in 2011 called Survival and Other Stories, but he hadn't remained dormant during that time. Jon's always been one for trying new things and pushing boundaries. And in 2015, he released an album with the Anderson Ponty band, Ponty being Jean-Luc Ponty, the violinist. And then in 2016, he released an album with Anderson Stolt, and the Stolt being Ronnie Stolt of the Flower Kings, which is another really great progressive rock band. And then also in 2016, he formed a new version of Yes, featuring Rick Wakeman and Trevor Rabin, which is really interesting to have those three guys together. There's that album there. It's a live album you could check out. And then just for icing on the cake, in 2017, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the rock band Yes, which I think is very worthwhile and deserving in my opinion. But for the album itself that we want to talk about here, called 1,000 Hands, and it is called Chapter 1, so hopefully that means there's going to be a second chapter coming down the road, and I'll explain why I think that's going to happen here. So the album itself originates from sessions that go all the way back to 1990 for a project that was called Uslot. But at the time, Yes was preparing for a tour, and so he actually shelved the tapes, and he didn't really give it much thought until 2016. And he began contemplating the idea of finishing that album. If you know anything about Jon Anderson or have stayed up to date with him, he's always referencing projects that he's working on. He always seems to have something going on. So it's not really a surprise when he works on something, puts it away, doesn't revisit it for a while, and or when years later he starts talking about a project that he did many years back. And so along with producer Michael Franklin, he began these new sessions for the album that ultimately developed into 1,000 Hands. And as the title suggests, the album was created by many different individuals. Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull, Jonathan Cain of Journey, Carmine Appice of Vanilla Fudge, Alan White and Chris Squire of Yes, Rick Derringer, Tower of Power Horns, Jean-Luc Ponty, and Chick Corea, just to name a few. I mean, there's so many on here. If you flip the album over, and I will in a moment, you'll see all the different guests that are on this album. And in March of 2019, as I said, it did get a limited release through his website on both CD and vinyl. But it was very hard to get a hold of, and it sold out extremely quickly and then wasn't pressed back into print until now, where it's getting a much wider release on the Blue Elon label. So throughout all of that time, it was only available digitally, and so that was the only way that I had actually heard this album. And I've long known this album now for, well over a year at this point. And so regarding the songs on this album, the album is very interesting as it's bookended by one song done in 3 different versions. So the first track is called Now. The 6th track on it, which is the middle of the album, is called Now Variations. And then the 11th track, the last track on the album, is called Now and Again. And what this does, it creates a nice intro and outro on the album, linking everything, pulling it all together, in my opinion. Track 2 on the album, it's called Rama Llama, and it begins with Jon making sounds that's very reminiscent of the Yes song Leave It off of 90125. And from this track alone, you can really hear how strong and powerful his voice still is. So, he's 75 now, and we know that this was started back in, 2016. And so even if those vocals were done then, he was still 71 years old, and it's just amazing how great his vocals still sound on this album. Track 3, called Firstborn Leaders, it's also the first single off of it, at least off of this new re-release of it. And this one features Alan White and Chris Squire of Yes fame on it. And it definitely has that Yes feel to it, and one of the most Yes sounding songs on this album too. So certainly if you're approaching this from the standpoint that you're looking for something that has that progressive rock leaning that Yes has and feel to it, I do think this album is that, but there's definitely some great tracks with Chris Squire and Alan White on it, so making it even more of a Yes song than certainly just a standard solo release would be by Jon Anderson. And even with all the guests that make up this album, it seems as though all the hands are able to come together and makes for one of the most cohesive solo albums from Jon in a very long time. Like his other collaborative projects, I really find this album to be one of his best. So let's take a look at this. This is the front cover of it. I really do like the artwork on this. I think it's pretty interesting the way they do it, and then overlay the graphics on it. There's the spine. And see the back cover there that I was mentioning, you got the track listing, but look at all the different, hands, as they refer to it, on here. Those are the players and stuff. And here's the inside of it. Gives you a little background on it there. And that's the underside. And then there is a booklet in this. Unfortunately, the booklet is just lyrics. It doesn't really go into anything, provide any photos. You get this one little live shot down there, but that's really it for the booklet. So kind of the key thing is what's here on the back and what's there on the inside that you can read through. Bottom line though, it's another really strong release from an artist who likes to push boundaries and is always moving forward. Despite this album being started 30 years ago though, I think that it's really got a fresh sound to it. I'd highly recommend this for all fans of Yes, certainly if you're a fan of Jon Anderson at all, but also for just progressive rock fans. I think this is a really great album in that vein. The guest list on this and the contributing hands alone, I think, make it worthwhile. And the way that he's able to fit all of these people onto one album, I think, is just amazing. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please remember to subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know your thoughts, and of course, hit the like button on your way out. All right, take care, have a great day, and I'll see you all real soon. Bye-bye.